Reggae Just Extra with Ras Dennis.
That the builder refused will always be the head cornerstone.
It should be noted that the story of the cornerstone goes all the way back to the Bible and the Old Testament. The cornerstone refers to an idea or person that is rejected, whom then goes on to become the foundation of the future. And we can still see this character and idea playing out in modern times. In fact, the use of Cornerstone in Sublime's music is purely a reference to Bob Marley, who wrote the song Cornerstone in reflecting on his rejection by the white side of his family. Said Ella Marley Booker in her book, Bob Marley, My Son, described what they went through in the said book, even though some people out there still find it difficult to believe her story, as gleaned from this comment section of our earlier video. This is Ras Dennis welcoming you back to the continuation of the true life story of Robert Nesta Marley, aka Bob Marley. According to said Ella, Bob Marley was going on 6 years old and progressing very well in his daily lessons under teacher Isaacs, and all of a sudden, Captain Marley, his father, came to her and said that he was arranging at his expense for Bob to attend a boarding school in Kingston. Bob's school teacher was against this plan, and over his objections, said Ella packed Bob's bags for his father, who came to get him, and one afternoon the two of them departed for Kingston. Months went past, months and months, and during that time, said Ella heard nothing about Bob. She wrote Captain letter after letter for news about their son, and she got no answer. Day and night passed with no word, and she was beginning to fret. Finally, she posted a strong letter to Captain, declaring her intention to travel to Kingston and see Bob no matter what. Captain Marley quickly wrote her back to say that Bob was in boarding school in the parish of St. Thomas, not in Kingston, and that he was being taught by a good teacher and he was progressing well in his lessons. Said Ella was glad to hear the news, but still worried and puzzled about why she had heard nothing from either Bob or his teacher. Where exactly was Bob? Months passed with no answer. One evening, Maggie Simpson, a higgler from Sedella's district who used to travel all over the island buying and selling goods, dropped into her shop with the news that she had just seen Bob on a Kingston street. "What?" she exclaimed, nearly falling off her shopkeeper's stool with shock. She explained that as she was traveling somewhere off Spanish Town Road, she heard someone calling, "Miss Maggie. Miss Maggie," and when she turned around, Bob was standing in the street, grinning at her. She added that Bob said that he was on his way to the market to buy charcoal for one Miss Gray, and that he had sent a message for her mother. "What message?" said Ella asked eagerly. "Him say, tell me Mata to come look for me," she replied. "Look for him? Look for him where?" Said Ella asked further. "Him say him lived on Haywood Street." Miss Maggie replied, "Which part of Haywood Street?" Said Ella asked again. "Anti-City, me telling you the God truth, me no remember," Miss Maggie said. "But him say him definitely lived on Haywood Street." Said Ella brain was in a whirl. How could Bob be living on Haywood Street in Kingston when he was supposed to be at boarding school in St. Thomas? Who was this Miss Gray who had sent my son to buy charcoal? Maggie Simpson told said Ella that her cousin Merle had been with her when Nesta had come running up to them, and perhaps she would remember where on Haywood Street he said he lived. A few days later, said Ella reached Kingston late in the afternoon, just as the shops were shuttering up for the night. She met Merle and both started walking up and down Haywood Street asking bystanders and market people if they had seen a little boy named Nesta Marley running around the neighborhood. Eventually, they came across a man sitting on the corner of the sidewalk and, after saying good evening and describing Bob Marley, who was also known as Nesta, they asked if he had seen him. "You mean young Marley?" he asked, glancing behind him. "He was here just a while ago." Just then, said Ella heard the noise of children playing nearby, and she went to look and spotted Nesta romping among them on the street corner. "Nesta," she cried. He jerked up and looked around quickly. Mammal, he squealed, shooting out from among his playmates and darting across the street to throw his arms around Sedella's waist. He cried with delight, giving Sedella a squeezing hug. Then he took Sedella to the woman at whose house he had been living, leading her through the back lanes and winding footpaths of the neighborhood to the bungalow where they found Miss Gray, sitting on her small veranda, trying to cool off in the shadows of the late afternoon. Miss Gray turned out to be an old woman whose trembling hands were shriveled and cracked with an unhealthy dryness. Sedella introduced herself to her, wondering what she was doing with her son who was supposed to be at boarding school in St. Thomas, and she explained to her in a quavering voice that she was sick with diabetes, could hardly walk, and that Captain had brought Nesta and left him to take care of her, and wondered why Captain never come back to see the boy after leaving him with her. According to Miss Gray, without Nesta, she can't even get food from the market. She added that she had no family left in the world and had never had any children of her own, and that if Nesta could only stay and look after her, upon her passing she would gladly will him all her worldly goods. "I'm sorry, Miss Gray," Sedella said firmly but gently, for her heart went out to this abandoned old woman, but Nesta is coming home with her to the country that very evening. Nesta, she told him, go and collect his belongings. With a lively scampering, Nesta disappeared into the small little house to pack. "I let him go to school," Miss Gray mumbled lamely. "But I don't have nobody else. He is all of life to me. He is my joy to hold and to have, ma'am," Sedella said, trying to stay calm. "His father told me he was in St. Thomas at boarding school. I thank you for the time you kept him here, for he is looking very nice and fat, and it shows you were caring for him." Nesta came out of the house with a small grip crammed full of his clothes, and they said goodbye to Miss Gray, who shrank down in her chair like she had just been beaten. "I don't know what goin' happen to me now," she whispered, as they left her alone in the gathering shadows of her tiny veranda. Sedella immediately wrote Captain a letter, telling him that she had found out about all his lies and liberated Nesta from Miss Gray's clutches. Captain never answered the letter. The years ran through. Nesta, who was known to the world as Bob Marley, thrived and grew and lived happily among his family of loved ones, establishing a special closeness with his grandfather Omiria. Thanks for watching, and do remember to watch the continuation part of this true life story. Please subscribe to this channel. Give it a like and post a positive comment in the comment section below, and I'll see you again very soon for another video.
Many thanks for watching Reggae Just Extra with Ras Dennis.